What's up, people? Back with another show, episode, podcast. There's a lot of different names that we could attribute to this. Um, but today's topic, we're gonna be talking about hard times, traumatic times, situations that we as humans go through, um, and everybody deals with um, situations differently. Um, Another name you might recognize is storms. We go through those uh, proverbial storms or theoretical storms, not an actual storm. But when you think about a storm, like take for instance, you wake up one morning, you might your daily routine might be to go to the gym, go to work, go see a friend. It could be anything. Um, but when you wake up, if you're not one of those that turn TV on, you got the news or the weather or something. If you're not that type of preparedness type person, you might not know what the day brings as far as the weather. Um, and with that being said, if you go out and let's say 20 minutes into your drive, you're into a storm and it's a big storm. God forbid it's a tornado or hurricane. And the question would be, are you prepared for that storm? Inside the car, yeah, there's really not a whole lot you can do but sitting there strapped in and drive carefully, right? But what if you have to catch the bus or the metro, the subway? That could be a different situation because you get on the bus, yeah, you're riding on the bus for a minute, but you gotta get off that bus and walk. And who knows how long that walk is. Um, you could be a torrential downpour where you're getting soaked, or you might, you know, have a hailstorm, it could be thunder and lightning, it could be anything. It could be a snowstorm, sleet, um, freezing rain, and that can make for an unpleasant rest of your day, not being prepared for that. However, things happen and um, we get in a situation where we have to figure our way through it. And then the way that we put our mind together is going to make for either a very irritating, hostile type of mentality for the rest of the day where you're just pissed off, or you might be like, well, things happen. Like it is what it is. Um, because again, we're human and we all deal with things differently. Some from our background and how we grew up, how we were brought up, um, the structure that we were surrounded by or lack thereof, um, and that carries throughout your life. And then you develop a train of thought and a way of processing things to the point where you can get through a situation and not be defeated by it. But bringing that to human relations and not necessarily the weather, it's the same way. We all deal with stuff. Uh, Sometimes you might have a friend like, man, why you always stay so calm? I get that about me a lot. Like, man, do you just, don't let nothing get to you? I mean, at the end of the day, once you can accept things and you process things, at the end of the day, what's going to change in my life, and I can only speak for me, but what's going to change in my life if I spaz or if I'm hostile and I just fall out over every single thing? Stress level goes up, blood pressure goes up. Hell, stress can kill. um, but it's not that I'm just the coolest, calmest, collected person. Even though some people say I am. It's not just that. It's just some things you just have to have a certain temperament and a mindset to help get through certain things. It doesn't make you cold hearted. It doesn't make you um, nothing like not feeling or no emotion, but it just becomes a way of life or a habit. Like anything that you do in a repetitive way, consistent way becomes habitual, like a habit, and it just becomes like second nature. Um, for example, like you might be working at a job and the check doesn't come like on time. Maybe it was due to a storm, an actual storm. Maybe it wasn't. But at the end of the day, I'm not gonna go like shoot up the place. I'm not gonna rob the place. I'm not gonna like cuss everybody out because it's not gonna make my check come no faster. Me acting out of pocket or acting out of character is not gonna make my situation get completed any sooner. And we deal with that with people too as well. It's a funny thing in the military. The first two things they teach you is how to carry a dead body and what to do if your gun jams. Because at the end of the day, you're gonna see some dead bodies. If you're in war zone areas, and if you're in areas that have frequent fighting, you potentially might see some dead bodies, and you're actually using weapons. So it's good to know that yeah, that weapon might not be as reliable, or it might get into a situation because it's heat. Because when you shoot a gun, it gets heated and heat up, and that could be a problem. And that is something that might freak somebody out. But if you know it's coming, you kind of you don't really truly be prepared to see a dead person, especially somebody that you might care about, might got close to, in a situation like that. But in a situation like that, there's a certain switch that flips that um, helps a person to get through it a little bit more productively, I guess you would say. Um, but in life, we don't want to, over here as civilians, because we're not in war zone areas, but sometimes, theoretically speaking, life can be like a war zone. It can be like, the front lines. Um, the relationships that we have with people, not just, romantic, but, platonic, our friendships. I've had, over the years, to see people that I never thought would switch up, and they switch up like a light switch. Like, like that's what we doing now. Like, I mean, you might not have had no arguments, might not have had no tensions, and then just one day they just, you know, literally, not literally, but figuratively stabbed me in the back. Um, and there's different things behind that too. People out there that are doing drugs. It's just, they're not really prepared, and the things that they're doing in life, they're not um, handling their situations and their tensions that stay bottled up, that they may not be finding a way to release in a healthy way, and take it out on the easiest target, which is someone that's close to them. But it's not something that you just get used to. But you know, what I tend to do is, my brain works in a way where it catalogs things. So like, first person that's ever done it, like, it's kind of like I don't just dismiss it, and I don't like just forget about it. Like I start to look and train myself based on the traumas that I've been through, and then when I look ahead, I never fault anyone that I'm just meeting for what someone has done in the past, but I don't close my eyes either. I will watch closely, like Sherlock Holmes, and then look for little signs. And I don't, I'm older gentleman a long time ago told me to be aware is to be alive. So like I would literally be like just as cool as a cucumber, but then when I start seeing little signs, I don't ignore them. Sometimes people like, oh, I'm getting the benefit of the doubt, and that's that where that expression, you give enough person enough rope to hang themselves. Um, The problem with that though is you got a rope taker who loves to keep taking the rope. They're gonna keep taking that rope. So you're gonna keep giving them rope. They're gonna have enough rope to hang them and their whole entire generation by the time they're done if they have their way. So at some point you kind of gotta step in and protect yourself, and you gotta make sure that as you give rope, you give boundaries with that rope. Um, it wasn't too recent that I was like, you know what, I ain't giving nobody else no more rope. Once they take that first piece or that first, kindness, that's it. Cut them. But I'm too generous of a person, too kind of a person to just, just go around and just cut people off for the smallest things because sometimes people can change. It ain't all the time, and it is a rare thing. But I have seen some people that I have helped by being tolerant, having a high tolerance, I guess you could say. And then always it's a case by case basis, and it's certain things that um, I have like guidelines in my own head and my own heart, and what I'm prepared to accept. And I've had people be like, "Damn, Derek, why you letting them get away with this? Why you letting them get away with that?" Like, and it's easy for someone outside looking in to be like, "Hey, look, man, you doing too much. You giving too much. This, and that." But I've had situations where they were right. I should have cut them off a long time ago, and I didn't. But at the end of the day, like the karma that I built is good. The karma that they created and generated and stored up is gonna be bad. Um, at the end of the day, I am who I am, so I don't just pick and choose who to be kind to. And if you're in my circle, then you get that same level of kindness that the next person in the circle would get. Now, if you're outside the circle, you ain't getting shit because I don't know you. But I'm not gonna be mean to people that I don't know. I just won't like have them close to me because the closer someone is, the more they can harm me. Um, and that's kind of like again like in a friendship storm. But some storms a little bit more intense, more stronger. Death um, is a traumatic situation that I guess if you're not used to seeing it, if you're young, you may be, you know, teenager, you might be in your 20s, you might even be in your 30s, and you haven't really been to a funeral before. You haven't, your mom and dad and your grandparents are all still living, and to not at least have somewhere in the corner of your mind that one day somebody's gonna die. We're all gonna die. We're all dying every day. Every second that goes by, we're closer to death. More closer to death than we were the day we were born. um, and this is not a podcast to say, oh, well, you should be like so ready to send your parents off to death. No, what I'm saying is you should not let it handicap you because it is hard to see someone that you are so close to, someone that you are, um, as long as you don't see that, you don't see anything else, and to be like, or let's say you have you in your head like, I'm gonna save you, you're sick, but I'm gonna get you better. That is only setting yourself up for a very hard grieving process. Um, what I would, and I had a friend that their grandmother's sick, and the only thing that I would tell them because my mom's passed, my dad's passed, my grandparents passed, um, and some uncles, and I've seen quite a few. I don't get, I'm not callous or cold to it, but I just know that they're definitely not suffering. They're definitely not in pain. And whatever ailment they had before passing, they don't have that. So like little things to get positive reinforcement, and then I try to distract myself with working harder and just enjoying the people that are here. But I told that friend that and to grief is something that doesn't have a time frame. It does not have a limit or a max. You grieve however long you grieve. And nobody can tell you you've been grieving over this too long. Tell them go kick rocks. Because at the end of the day, that's your family, that's your people. Nobody can tell them. Nobody can tell you what your grieving process should be. Um, But at the end of the day, I told her, I said, that instead of literally trying to play doctor, like you're gonna save her, and you don't even have a degree, you're not even in school to save her. Enjoy that time. Give her the best time that she could have left while you create the best memories that you could have left. And that could help in that process, and then that you take that with you as you continue on. And hell, nobody knows the day or the hour, while we like, oh, I don't want you to go, and then you ended up passing before them. Like nobody knows. It's life sucks. And I've been saying that for a long time. Life sucks because life is designed to do only one thing: for you to die. Life is gonna kill you. Death's gonna bury you. Simple as that. I live for the moments. Moments are things that you can somewhat have some type of bearing on, some type of influence. Because if you say, "Oh well, I'm gonna go to the beach this weekend," as long as you are alive and well and you wake up, you have the funds and you have the vehicle and get the hotel, you can create that moment because you're going to go to the beach and have a good time. Go out there on the sand, you can go out there and lay down, you can go out there and, you know, go to the nice restaurants, nice hotels. That's a moment that life didn't take from you. And everything that we plan doesn't always come through. You know that. But at the end of the day, uh, at least you put forth an effort, and then you went and did something that made you happy, that you made you content. Something with your family, um, something by yourself. But to say that you're going to beat life and you're going to find this fountain of youth like people have tried for so many years, um, that's not going to happen. So we have to like look at some of my earlier episode. I did a show on acceptance, and that is that two-lane highway that woulda, shoulda, coulda. I can this. It's not for certain, or it's uncertain, and questions would never be answered in that lane. In the reality lane, you can know for a fact because you have evidence, you have information, you have real truths that do not bend, they do not curve. A person that his body's decaying and depleting. The reality is they are not going to make it very much longer. Nobody can say how long, you know, but we can say that their chances of them living for another 100 years, not so much. Um, but when we educate ourselves, when we properly plan, and when we properly start to adjust our thinking to be more flexible, more understanding, it really can help decrease the 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 rage and the ranting and raving that would come about not having that understanding. Um, I made a new friend last weekend. He was so defeated that he was ready to hurt the entire world. Um, and I kind of felt like a therapist in the moment. See, but the situation was he was married for 8 years, and one day he came in and he caught his wife um, sucking on a 22-year-old dick. I mean, it's not for 18 years. None younger. It's like I didn't give it to you straight, and uh, he snapped a little bit, beat 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 the kid up, whatever. But uh, at the end of the day, that's something that he didn't see that coming. He wasn't prepared for that. The good thing is after we talked for a while, he softened up on going back to the house. So, and I told him I was like, and the saying that I say all the time: when the person show you who they are, believe them. You know, you've been good to her for 8 years. You've taken care of her. You worked a good husband, And for whatever reason, she lost sight and faith and trust and loyalty. At the end of the day, like, she stepped out and showed you that you were not what she was to you. And yeah, it's easy for me to say again, looking outside in and just walk away, blah, blah. But I said at the end of the day, your freedom is worth more than vindicating and getting retribution for that situation. She lost you. You didn't lose her. She was never there. If she could easily do that with a younger kid, she lost you. You didn't lose her. And you don't need to lose yourself trying to get payback for something that you couldn't even control. Because if you were good to her for 8 years and she still did that, nothing you could do could stop that. So then why try to go and hurt beyond what you've already done to give? I mean, that was in the moment. They said like emotional reaction or moment of passion. You you acted out. I would have done the same thing. I ain't gonna lie. But at the end of the day, um, I would literally bet my last dollar that there were signs that he didn't see um, by not being naive, but just being overly trusting that everything was good. But like, because one thing he did admit was that the communication wasn't like it used to be, and so um, when you've been to enough situationships as I have, and dealing with females that really don't want anything better than just to look good and get a dollar for a day. Like it's just, and that's not to say everybody, but like the ones that I pursued over this past few years, 4 or 5 years, um, is I've learned to pick up on signs really quick. But this ain't it. This ain't it. But when you're actually in like his situation, when you're married, you can't really see that. And a lot of people, there's no real class or book that's really just going to just prepare you for that storm. You just have to, you have to be ready. You have to try to find a way to ready yourself. And not being naive is one of the ways. Not blinding yourself when you actually see it. Like blind, you see something and then you really just you put the blindfold on, or you see a red flag and you paint it back green. You can't do that. You can't do that. You can't make that horse drink the water that you led him to. You can't force feed him either because then that is your energy. Um, there was a song, one of the one of the verses that says, "When when I stopped being your piece, I found mine." A lot of times we just go so hard to try to please and try to love on somebody and try to love on them and try to love them past the stuff they're doing, past the stuff that we see and that we're just blindly ignoring. And in that moment, we're loving an image that we're trying to hold on to, or that we're trying to create a picture that we're trying to paint. Um, and in that event, I would say we're breaking our own hearts because the person literally is doing everything in their power. Maybe not even intentional. Maybe it's just because they have some type of um, addiction or some type of you know maybe mental illness, maybe some type of uh, they have something that's preventing them from matching your energy, from returning what you're doing, and then the time that we spend um, could really take a toll on us and make it worse on us because instead of just accepting the fact and knowing that when you physically, emotionally, mentally acknowledge and withdraw, that it's not you that's quitting, it's you that's saving. Because the more energy and the more time you put into trying to save someone or try to love someone to treat you better, the more you're draining yourself, the more that you are, um, you're making yourself literally like hopeless. Because eventually, that type of effort and energy takes a toll on you. And we don't want to lose ourselves in someone else. So, talking to that gentleman, I told him some of the things I'm telling you right now, and he was like, "Man, you're right. I know." I said, "I'm glad I talked to you. You're a really good dude, really good guy." Um, some other things, like another situation or example, if you had a job for 5 years and all of a sudden they're doing layoffs and you're in that bracket of getting laid off, you know, who's prepared for that, for their income to completely stop? And unless you're in like a blue collar or, one of those higher jobs where, you know, uh, you got a pension coming after, even though they lay you off, and you still got something to go off of. You might just be at McDonald's, you might be at Amazon, you might, who knows? You could be at a job where they don't have something that's going to continue with you as you go on, and I know I know some people personally, they lose their job and they go straight back to get some, I'm gonna go snort some coke, or I'm gonna drink myself, like, but and that's quitting because, but at the end of the day, like, people deal with things differently. You know, I'm not judging, but we want to. I've been in a situation where I've lost jobs, and I just got my ass up and found another one. And that wasn't easy because I had to maybe go through a couple of jobs that I didn't fit in, and um, that was hard to deal with. That, and the money might not have been the same. Money could have been a lot less. The one thing that I am glad that, because in '98 when I got out of prison, I ended up moving to Harrisonburg, Virginia, and then I met a girl who was from Montgomery, Alabama. Eventually ended up getting married, moving down to Alabama, and I was down there for 12 years. During that time, in the beginning, first couple of years, I promise you, I had every bit of 40 jobs. So I know about losing a job and going to find another one. And it got to the point where it wasn't like just going to a place, putting an application and getting a job. It was going to the temp place where you had to work 90 days. And then if they liked you, then they'd hire you on. Um, but with that number, and then, eventually ended up landing a real job, a really good job too, Dow Corning, making really good money. And then having someone basically hate on me my because I came in there and I really went hard. My work ethic, I don't even know where it came from because I didn't like to work. When I was a teenager, I worked at Wendy's for a week, got a paycheck, just take a girl out and quit. So yeah, I didn't like to work. But when I had a family, was married, kids on the way, stuff like that, I did develop a work ethic so much that she hated how much I worked because I always kept two jobs, one full, one part time, and because I like money. Oh man, if you work, money keeps coming in. And but I realized and I had ADHD, so like I had to really go through some stuff, and I had to really find my road, find my my lane. And it wasn't easy going through factory after factory after factory or restaurants and all these jobs. I don't like none of them. I didn't like being in one spot for 12 hours. You get like two 10-minute breaks and one 30-minute break. It's like, bro, that's just not my mentality. It was more so like um, I just wanted the freedom to be able to at least feel free, even though I wasn't free. And this is me working through that storm that I was in, because eventually I would have just continued just going through job after job, or I hate a job and that be good enough to not get fired, be on time, my attendance, go through the process, the motions, and I probably wouldn't be doing this podcast right now. But eventually, during that time and that span of 12 years in Alabama, I developed the entrepreneur's mentality. Um, and that eventually led me to becoming a contractor because I worked for a construction company, but they did installs for uh, a realty company, and these were new houses, brand new houses that we were working in. And eventually, I went from a helper to running my own business, and I ended up having to come back home to DC to do that. But when I did that, and once I started that, then I started to try to make my own way, my own treadway um, to making better income. Because my cousin, he's actually started his own remodeling company, and that's what got me back home working with him. But that didn't really work out too well because family is family. And at the end of the day, he was my favorite cousin growing up. But when he got older, he wasn't the same. He was not the same. And but however, I always related to the militant father that was so hard on his son that no matter, even if the son did everything right, he still didn't do everything right. And that's kind of how my cousin was. But at the end of the day, I'm a beast. You can go on my Facebook page, People's Tile Company. The company is CO, it's abbreviated. I got I got all my work on there. Like I was a beast. I learned how to tile before I came up here. I was with the company I was with, but he taught me how to drywall. He taught me how to do electrical, plumbing, painting. Like I don't care what it is, I can do a whole house single handedly um, by myself if I had to. It did affect our relationship, but he made me one of the best contractors that I know, and I'm a bad one. I just am. I could do a 5 by 5 bathroom, tear down to the studs, and put back in 3 days, 3 4 days maybe, and that's completely ready to turn back over to the homeowner. So, I mean, the bad part was having to tolerate my cousin's micromanaging, his insecurities, his second guessing, his literally just like not trusting me whatsoever, not wanting to pay me either. You know, I mean, I understand he had to make profit, whatever, but I was like, yeah, I can't do this no more. So I branched out on my own, and I remember that he wanted because all his people love me too. So his painters, his plumbers, his helpers, like I really had access to them even after I left him. They came and helped me too. But one guy, I was talking to him about my dream of doing my own business, and he t- he said something to my cousin. My cousin said he'll never have a business. He'll never do good on his own. And I'm the type of person that don't tell me what I can't do. And then again, though, the average or the norm would have literally ended up having an argument, cussing each other out. I just absorbed that. I absorbed that insult from my family. Instead of him wanting to see me go out and do good, I just said, I'm gonna go out and show him. I ain't gotta argue with him. I ain't gotta cuss him out for what I heard. And that's one of the things too about dealing with storms. We hear people talk about people all the time. And then when people hear people talk about them, then you got to address every single one. And then you wonder why the prison's so full or why the grades are so full because we got to check everything. Now, when you wrong yourself, doesn't necessarily mean you're wrong. You know, I mean, that's just real shit. A lot of times, you know, and that comes with being humble too. You have to have a good level of humility to make it through the world without incident. Um, So, needless to say, long story short, I went from working for him to having my own to him calling me, helping him out. At the end of the day, I don't see problems. I only see solutions. And if I'm good at something, if I'm great at something, especially if I can master something, I'm gonna run so hard with it. That's why I just bought this AI, you know, technology camera that hopefully is giving it better quality because this is my first pie show with it. Came this morning, 4 o'clock in the morning, and I ordered some backdrops so I can give y'all something better than my China cabinet to look at. You feel me? Like y'all working. I promise you, this is gonna be a very professional show because I really enjoy talking to the world. Because I always got something to say. So I'm a work in progress, and this is another way of dealing with a different storm of what I'm going through now because this is releasing, you know, a lot of emotion and tension and build up, and it just gives me a positive outlet, outlet to talk to people because I like to talk to people, and I like to help. So, like, if anything that I can give, what I'm doing now can help someone else, then I love that. I stamp and approve this message. But um, I ran with it, and it wasn't. And even with the being, the contract, uh, it wasn't easy, and it wasn't a walk in the park. I mean, it took years for me to really feel good about calling myself a general contractor without no schooling. I didn't go to school for tile, but I promise you, I can lay 1,000 square foot in about 13 hours. No problems, no mess ups, all joints straight, everything level. Like I was a beast. I was a straight beast. I could paint a room in the same amount of time that the people at Sherwin Williams going to charge you 10 times more to do. Like I, I was a bad motherfucker. I just was, and I was good at it, and I took pride in it. And be able to have a homeowner come home and like, all right, come on, we're gonna do the final reveal, and then walk them into their bathroom, their kitchen, their basement, or whatever project I was working on, and see the joy on their face that I created, that I gave them. Couldn't nothing touch that. Couldn't nothing touch that. And years later, because this is a long time ago, but years later, and I'm still that dude. I'm still a beast. But my cousin's like, man, he gave me all the compliments and validation and everything that he never gave me during that time. Um, and so, like, but young folks today, like, their storms, and it might not even be the worst storm in the world, but because they do not know how to mentally have tolerance to process things, to handle things in a way that, obviously someone with more experience would handle, they just blow their own lives up. They self sabotage and they don't even know it. Um, and then it's even worse when they have, um, there's a new saying going on. It's been going on for a while. When someone says, "I'm him," I'm like the chosen one. Like to a lot of the young people that I deal with, and that I love on, I'm him. I've been through everything you've been through and more, and 10 times that you probably never catch up to me because I'm still going through things. And I never have the mentality that you stop learning. I'm always learning. I will learn from a 5-year-old kid. If you tell me something that's legit, that's solid, I'm gonna take it and run with it. But a lot of the a lot younger mindsets feel like they know everything because, oh, I made it this far. You ain't made it that far. Come on, double that up, and then you be up there where I'm at. But it's kind of sad sometimes because I literally can tell a person I've seen in times where I'm like, man, that's probably not gonna work out. And most times when I call it, it's true. It don't work out. Or I can foresee a person's downfall. Not that I'm God or anything like that. I just know that type of situation. And if it goes this way and they continue in that way, then this is gonna happen. It's not rocket science. It's just cause and effect. Um, and then they're like, damn, Derek, you was right. Shit, listen, what I mean, now you can record that, catalog that, and when that situation comes again, and it'll be a different outcome. Case in point, I knew, I'm not gonna say no names or anything like that, but there was someone that was dear to me that literally, um, dealing with, uh, men, literally didn't know how to couldn't couldn't pick a light bulb out of a basket. And I don't know if it was just the whatever it was a continuous thing. And the first one, I was like, yeah, that's probably not a good move because of the stature that he had where they worked. And, you know, it just didn't. And then to have it fall apart and then continue to, in that same workplace, antagonize or throw shots, that's putting your job in jeopardy now. Then after that, then you want to go into another situation where you're dealing with someone that really isn't showing you any real effort, and then you're giving them all the effort, and then that falls apart, and then you want to turn around and go back to them. You got to learn how to let things go. We have to learn how to let things go as people, because if we don't, then we continue to reinfect ourselves with the thing that was tearing us down. you know, and it's hard. I know it's hard. I've done it myself, but that was kind of more so some years ago. I don't really deal with people now. I block the fuck out you. Block. I don't give a fuck. I'll move on because you know what? I'm good by myself. I, I'm good. not gonna let nobody take advantage of me. And some people just take a little bit longer to learn it. And eventually she will, he will, they will. But I don't I, I don't really get into the situation where I'm like trying to force a person who likes to keep choosing their own people. You're gonna learn that on your own. But when I have people in my circle, in my friendship that rely on me for information, I give them the most best information that I can muster based off of my 50 something years of living. And I try to give it to them straight. I don't sugarcoat shit. I'm not going to baby nobody, but I'm going to give you what you need, or I'm going to give you the answer that you're asking for. And at that point, it's up to your level of maturity and your level of discipline to apply them or not. And then sometimes when we have trauma bonds and we have things that really um, hinder our judgment, sometimes it's gonna take a little bit longer. But if you love somebody, you're not gonna put them down, especially if they're going through their storm. If they're going through a traumatic situation, you don't want to quit on them. But at the end of the day, you don't want to force it on them either. You just gotta be there. And sometimes it just takes listening. And I've had this example of like that storm that we're talking about, the figurative storm, but felt nonetheless. A lot of people, when the storm is upon them, they try to outrun the storm, procrastinating, maybe even lazy, or just really just not trying to acknowledge it and hope that it goes away. None of that storm ain't going away. That's like seeing a thunderstorm coming down the mountain and it's like, oh, it's gonna turn around. No, it ain't stupid. It's coming. Um, where I'm more like the person, I see a storm, I go into it, and I am trying to be as quick with it as I can to try to work through that storm. Um, in a way that I try to be as realistic as I can. I try to think and process and handle everything, all the pieces, and hopefully it's kind of like having a Rubik's cube, and somebody, when they throw it at you, it's already twisted up, and you literally have to put the pieces back. And there's a right way and there's a wrong way, and then there's we said divine way, because just because something comes in a manual doesn't necessarily mean there's not another way to get something done. It's called being eccentric. Eccentric is where you go in a curve motion and still create the same speed or pace as if you were going straight. It doesn't make sense to me either, but I'm very eccentric. You will not tell me this is how it's going to be done and don't think I'm going to try to find another way to do it. It is what it is. But at the end of the day, sometimes some people take that Rubik's cube that is the only thing, which is the pieces that they need to put together and the pieces that they need to focus on, what's important, what's not important, and they sit that bitch down. Like, why would you do that? Like, you're never going to get through your storm. You see people go through stuff for years. Why? Because they took their Rubik's cube of problems and solutions and just sat it down and just sat there. Whether they sat down with a bottle or whether they sat down with other other coping mechanisms and just was like, you know what, it's okay. And maybe because they had people who were basically force feeding their horse at the well, at the end of the day, they'll never get out of that problem. And so they pick the cube up and then they start processing and start working out the problems. I ain't perfect by lunch. I have problems myself, but at the end of the day, I don't have unnecessary problems. I don't really do um, I don't try the hard road. If I can't master something, I don't mess with it. And that's just where my mind is. And that's when I seen the growth from going from working a bunch of hundreds of temp, I mean, well, almost 100, bunch of temp jobs, losing a bunch of jobs, dealing with foremans and supervisors. Once I like got through that next level of this ain't for me, and then I found what was and got amazingly good at it to a point where I could do luxury bathrooms like you'll see in a five-star hotel. I could do any type of plumbing, whether it's copper, CPVC, whether it's PEX, didn't matter. I can plumb whatever. I expanded and did bathrooms. Never went to school for master plumbing. No. But but I can do a master plumber's job. That's essential. I didn't go the straight way, the straight and narrow path. I was a whole out here with my learning curve like a mud, but I still got there. At the end of the day, I I I always kept my Rubik's cube in my hand as much as I could. I put it down sometimes, and I was just like, you know what, forget this, and then this, and then people would always be like, I remember when I was in Alabama, 2007, Hurricane Katrina hit, and New Orleans was done, and a lot of them um, kind of fled to Alabama, and I was dating this girl who was Creole actually, and her brother Thaddeus. I remember him, cool dude, smooth, nice. He had a nice Dodge Dodge Ram truck, and back then it was like, oh, that's a shit. And I'm struggling to drive. I don't even know what I was driving if I was driving, but he got hired on at the construction job or the contract job that I had that I was with, and um, I think we knew each other for a while, right? About a year or so. Um, but he had a dream one night, and he was like about me. He saw me in a nice car like a Mercedes or like a sporty car, right? Um, and after being in Alabama at that time for about 7 years, I was like, yeah, I don't think that's ever happening. And that's me. That was me proverbially putting that cube down because I basically shot myself in the foot if I would have kept that belief. Um, but he saw something great in me. He saw something good in me. Um, and for me, the whole 12 years that I was in Alabama was a continuous storm. And that was me going through the motions and trial and error. And I say the worst 12 years of my life. The worst 12 years of my life. But I was always positive, always smiley. Um, and I always loved on other people. Like I learned how to fix brakes. I can do a brake job. Doesn't matter the car, doesn't matter make model, didn't matter. I can change brakes on per wheel. We're talking about 20 minutes per wheel. And I mastered it, got good at it. I never paid for a brake job my entire life because one of the brothers in the church when I was in Harrisonburg said that it's better to learn how to do the things you can do on your car, save you a ton of money. The brake job right now is almost $1,000, honestly. $600 to $1,000, depending on your car, depending on where you go. Since I was in Alabama till now, I changed brakes for $50 a wheel. So like, you know what I'm saying? Inbox me if y'all know. I know some of y'all riding around with some dry wheels, but when I was in Alabama, none of my friends had to go to none of those places. They came to me, got their brakes changed, safe, sound, boom, they're good. So that's like trying to put pieces together in that storm. My one of my superpowers is acts of service, you could say, and to help others. Even if nobody ever really helped me, I've had people help me, but his dream stood out for a reason because it's like, man, you had a dream about me, and that's a special thing, or that's kind of powerful because, and I say that because what is it? It's 2019, so almost 12 years later, I always say his dream came true because I I um I bought my first uh, really nice car. I had a Camaro, uh, 2017 Camaro SS. I promise you, that bad boy was nice. And every time once I purchased it and drove that bad boy home, and I thought about every time that for the first, I don't know, for the first month, the dream he had about seeing me in some nice car. And this Camaro, drop top, convertible, don't get no nicer than that. And another thing that was crazy was that was in 2020, March 5th. I won't even forget the day I bought that car. Um, in 2010, uh, no, 2011, that car was a prototype because Transformers just came out, and so they brought back the Camaro in the first one, and the 2017 model, the exact same model year, was a prototype was not even, it was a concept car basically of what that Camaro was going to look like in that year, and it came out in 2017, and I bought it in 2020. There's never been a time that I've ever gone to a car show and think that I could ever afford anything that they would ever have in one of those. So like, that the what the storm did in Alabama for those 12 years was make me an invincible earner. I don't care how I gotta do it by hook or crook, it's all legal. But at the end of the day, I developed an attitude where I had no pride too strong to do anything to make a dollar, whether it was working a bunch of jobs, or whether it was giving cheap prices for the home remodeling things that I did, just to beat out the other man, because one, I wasn't fully licensed, but I was fully skilled and trained. Like those 12 years, it took 12 years. I mean, somebody might have took less, but I did set that cube down. I did. And then I just got wrapped up in the life down there. And then sometimes, you just wake up, you'll be like, man, I gotta stop doing this. I'm gonna pull back from everybody. That happens because you're like literally, you go down that rabbit hole and you're literally on that, you're just like getting lost down there, and you forget the days. You don't see the days turn into the nights, and your time is kind of wasting away. I wasted a lot of time down there. But the one thing that I became was a hustler. Like I started washing cars. I started doing whatever I could do. And then when I was able and my kids were old enough, because the reason, other than being broke for a long time, that I stayed there so long so I could have a relationship with my kids. And I wanted to break the cycle that my parents had, that me and my parents had. My dad literally moved, my mom and dad got divorced when I was 7, and he moved to California. Ended up meeting somebody. He was with her for like 30 years, helped take care of her and her kids. And I'm like, what about us? And he really didn't do nothing for us. Instead of hating him into his grave like my brother did, I forgave him. We talked in his last 5 years of his life. We really had some good moments and some good times, and realized after what I was going through in Alabama, I get it. I get it, Dad. Like it's just hard. And then you're over there, I'm over here. I get it. I got it. I forgave him, and I felt good when he passed. That I fixed and fixed that bridge. But even more importantly, my kids have always had a bond. We've had 5 of them, and we've always had a relationship. And none of them's ever been locked up. None of them's ever been in jail. None of them's ever like they all, well, except for my son. Um, but he's an amazing artist. Not been in jail, but he didn't finish school, but he got a GED. Um, but I'm proud of all of them. Like at the end of the day, to have 5 never be locked up. Well, 2 of them are too young to get locked up, but the other 3 grown to never been locked up. I don't even think been pulled up for a speeding ticket, honestly. And the way that my ass was when I was growing up, that was I mean that makes me feel good that I was able to accomplish that. But that storm in Alabama, it it created and educated me through the school of hard knocks how to survive in hard times. Um, but I allow people who were in a better situation, better predicament, and that you know they knew more than I did. I allowed them. I was a sponge, and I just learned. And sometimes, people let pride stop them from leaning on other people. I don't need you. I don't need. And then you end up with nobody. You have no friends. You have no safety net. You have nowhere to go. And then your body start trying to figure it out, and you're not really going to figure it out in a short period of time if you only rely on yourself. Especially if you really just don't have that knack to like pick things up and run with it. So um, it's really how you program your mind to accept um, trauma, to accept harsh emotional conditions, and to deal with people that may not be, you know, they may not really, you might not like them. You might not just like people, but sometimes, you have to humble yourself, you have to wrong yourself, and you have to do things that can get you to another spot without hurting someone, without using or taking advantage. But sometimes that word is always perceived as negative. But if a person is like pull from me, let me pour into you, take advantage of what I'm giving. Yes, take advantage of the knowledge, of the opportunity, but not of them. Earn what they give you, like, and take it and use it. Take it and run with it too. Um, because at the end of the day, you just don't want to be um, that person that knows it all. That knows nothing. You know, it's just not the way that success is made. Success is made by allowing yourself um, to be vulnerable enough to learn from someone else, and then you grow, and then you can teach someone else and pull them up. These people that are like in higher positions, some of them do it because of their ego, some of them do it because of arrogance, but some really just like I was that person. I was that person. I have a house full because I know how it is to be on the street. I know how it is to have not have a place to call home. So you know, and they're like, "Why you got people in your house?" Because they need me, even if I don't eat. I and sometimes I need them. Just like, hey, look, let's just help each other. And then when you get to a point where you can grow and then branch off to something else, then you know, return that favor that was given. And even not saying have everybody in your house. That's not what I'm saying, but be in a position mentally um, to care enough to pull someone up that you see is a good person or that could be could be a good person and could be better than their situation. Because the one thing I've never learned, never did was judge somebody as their situation. I only look at the person and the potential that I see in them. It gets me in trouble a lot by looking at people's potential because I consider myself an empath and a visionary, and I can see a lot of things that people hide, people are sitting on, and that I pour so much to try to get that potential to be realized, and that right there is that's sometimes my thorn in my side. um, because sometimes you can start loving that image that you have in your head and the character that you have in your head instead of seeing that the work that needs to be done is a lot further away than that. But again, we never know what might spark someone or what might move someone. But um, at the end of the day, we want to try to program our mind. We want to try to expand and to an extent become more vulnerable to opportunities and learning the steps to create those opportunities, learning the steps to create growth, progress, and success. Because we all have the ability to move and grow and learn, and it's not always a mental thing. Sometimes it's an emotional thing. Like we just don't like that person, or we like trying to talk to people, or we just don't just lazy. Because nowadays they don't even like they used to. I didn't have phones and tablets and all that. I was outside, literally make believing the fuck out of my whole childhood, which is why I'm such a huge and big dreamer now. And nowadays, you don't have to use your brain no more. Sometimes I forget words because literally autocorrect. I start a word, the autocorrect finishes. I'm like, man. And then when I don't have my phone, I'm sitting here on the computer where it doesn't really do that. I'm like, hold on, I'm gonna get my phone so I can spell this word. Technology makes us lazy. My kids included, makes us lazy. Um, so sometimes, it's just good to just get the hell out of the house and just get lost and just, I for just an example, like when I was at home and like we would have a bunch of boxes, I would make a fort and I would go up in that fort and I would literally have I would do a whole movie in my head in that fort. Like it was fun. And I didn't have to have a gaming console because my mom couldn't afford one. We we the our imagination was our gaming console, was our iPhones and Android phones and That's why to this day, like I still have calves because I rode my bike everywhere. I literally didn't get a ride. I didn't stay home because I couldn't get a ride. I just rode my bike. I would ride my bike across town, around town, next state, didn't matter. Like on the interstate, I didn't care. I was active, always active, which you see, I kind of look good, so it is what it is. Um, but like, yeah, we just want to try to, we want to try to go in the storm with an open mind and try not to put that cube down. There's nothing wrong with taking a break, taking a breather, sabbatical. Like it's all right, it's from the moment. But when you're in the storm, don't cower in the storm. Don't try to run out the storm because you can't outrun the storm. You have to go through those type of storms. Thunderstorm, yeah, you can shelter in place. It'll be gone a couple hours, whatever. But for life storms, we want to go into the storm and we want to figure it out on the fly. And we want to use what we can see and feel inside that storm. Who's close to you? Who you got that family? What friend? What type of person that has some knowledge or experience to help get you through that storm. You know, and even if it's not an actual person, Google. People ask questions all the time when really they just go on their phone. Hey Google, tell me blah blah blah, and Google will answer every fucking question you come up with. Seriously. If the young person is hitting me with a question, even if I know the answer, if it's that type of question, like check Google. Google tell you. YouTube that shit. A lot of things that I learned how to fix on cars, I YouTubed and went out there and took my time, and eventually, I had to make sure I had my video right there playing and rewinding forward and rewinding, and I learned how to do it on my own. I didn't have to go ask a mechanic or nothing because YouTube is YouTube. YouTube is YouTube. So, and here we are on YouTube, right? But at the end of the day, there's way too many tools for somebody to walk around acting dumb. So I don't tolerate that. Like, nah, I'm not about to condone it or endorse it. I'm gonna tell you, go figure it out, and I'm gonna tell you where to go figure it out. Because then you can say, well, I led you in the right direction. So at the end of the day, YouTube, Google, or any other type of informative information, or you got granddads, you got people in the family that knows everything. But at the end of the day, people got their own stresses nowadays. It's more prevalent throughout the families and throughout um, your community. Everybody's going through something. Your thing ain't no more important than their thing because your thing is yours and theirs is theirs. Not a competition. So like, don't make your problems theirs. If you can help some things, which if asking a question, trying to figure something out as far as the definition or trying to figure out how something works. If it's something analytical or like that, look that shit up. But if it's more of emotional, more emotional, something more technical, then yeah, get somebody with more experience. But I'm be like, look, how did I screw in this light bulb? Go look that shit up. You know, give them a break. Um, but and hopefully you got something out of this. I don't know, 'cause I've been talking for a minute, but no, seriously though, like be more kinder to yourself. And we got a lot of overthinkers that literally send them into panics and anxiety attacks. It's good to think, but try not to overthink. If you've already come up with an answer and you got a solution, don't second guess it. Just try that out. Trial and error sometimes. Try that out and don't overthink because overthinking is literally gonna stress you the fuck out. And it's gonna whoever's trying to help you is gonna be stressed out because it's like, look, bro, no, you're good, you're good. Nah, this is how we do it. This is what we do. We're good. We got a plan. I will, but what? Shut the fuck up with the but what is. Do not overthink it. Let it go. Just try that. And then you might see like, oh damn, that's right. And then you might can overthink a little bit less each time. Or maybe not. I don't know. But hopefully that, we've gotten something to hopefully you got something out of it. Again, I'm working on uh, upgrading to the highest level of my ability. This camera hopefully is solid as I look down at the screen. I see clear picture. I didn't see no distortion. Hopefully you didn't either. Um, and if you did, you might want to check your Wi-Fi because this camera is literally like it's on top. and then I want to work on getting some backdrops to make things look a little bit more like a show. Um, I got guests lining up. Have some people on here real soon. Hopefully by this weekend. Um, I have a. I'm working on getting a DJ from Washington D.C. in here. He's got like 1 million followers. My son is actually an artist, so like that would be, that would definitely be like that would be like a special show. I got my boy Deja Blue from Charlotte area. He's a very successful artist with a lot of great music that's out there. Deja Blue, look him up on all platforms. Um, uh, so yeah, I got a variety. It's not just strippers, but it will definitely be some gorgeous ladies getting ready to come on here. I got some great talented guys, DJs, artists. I'm literally like I'm not average by any means. I'm not average. We're about to turn up, and we're gonna turn it all the way up. And we're gonna have fun, and it's gonna be again authentic, natural, genuine, no scripts. I don't do that, and I don't want to be like any other podcaster. Not to be better than them. I just want to be something different. That's all. So thanks for tuning in, and for those of y'all that tuned in later that didn't really get a chance to get the live because then everybody's got busy lives, busy schedule. Thank you for watching later. Like and share, tell your friends about it. Hopefully, it can be something refreshing from the mundane things that you see all the time. Hopefully, it got you through your washing clothes or your cleaning up or whatever you may be doing right now or for a long drive. But Babu is going to be definitely coming to you on a regular. So let's see you next time. And we have